let's finish up with the last Hermetic principle of gender. This is a really good one to end up because it kind of summarizes everything that we have spoken about, and that might be the reason why they put it like this in this order, because there doesn't seem to be a particular order. Once we're past mentalism, actually, the law of correspondence, I mean, just there is no sequence to this, but I think gender kind of summarizes the whole thing because we can see so much of it. And well, that's why, because we are made of it, and that's what the word means. So we got to start with that. When gender in the KYBALION, it's used for the creation or for the laws of manifestation, we use it as a word for generation. That's where the word comes from, gender, to generate. And in fact, in Spanish, and I'm pretty sure its roots from Latin is the same. Generar means género, género means gender, generar means to generate, so it's the same thing. And we're looking, the distinction is that we're not talking about the gender, the biological gender of something, but rather the two parts that make up one being. And I think that's the key thing to understand as a law or as a principle, that the two things become one. And you can already see all the implications of this phrase alone. But that is the purpose of gender, to show that there are two parts to any given observed item or observed particle, being, entity, planet, whatever. There's always two components to the one thing that we're looking at. And of course, we know it in our human experience. And this is why the deeper you get to try to understand how the universe works beyond physics, you have to stop thinking as a human. And that is the basic advice that I always give to anybody I talk to, and they're always asking me questions about how can they visualize or understand this, or how can they... It's always stop thinking as a human, because that's what's getting in the way. Actually, stop thinking at all, but that's that's a little deeper than we can get. But it does work the same way. I mean, you stop generating. Once you stop thinking, you stop generating so much confusion in your head, in your mind. So gender refers to that, refers to the two principles. I mean, we can call it masculine and feminine, positive and negative. It doesn't matter. There are two things that are opposite each other, and that's why we talked about polarity, we talk about vibration, we talk about the law of correspondence, and so on. So we are on the same page there. There are two things that make up one, and that is the idea of gender. And gender, I think, is a word in English too, and that would be in Spanish engendrar, which is again to produce, to generate, to bring forth, about, or create, actually. So that's the word, or the meaning of study of the word gender. So going into the KYBALION, the first thing you will read in this chapter, which I love, they have it's a longer phrase, of course, but this is what I took, which I think is more relevant to what I want to talk about. Gender isn't everything. Again, everything is made out of two basic forces, and the union of those two forces is what makes up anything. And we'll take a trip to that, as usual. Gender manifests in all planes because, again, the universe is created in duality, and we'll talk about that too. The universe is created in duality, so gender must be present in everything. The two poles need to be present in everything for us to perceive or understand whatever it is that exists in the universe. And this is why we keep finding more and more particles, because we keep looking into something, and whenever we find something, we'll find, again, nature expressed in the two poles. So now let's do a dissection let's dissect this. When we talk about two forces, we already know duality. Duality is a word that for me obviously rings a bell in Hinduism and Buddhism in general when we talk about the non-dual approach to reality, to consciousness, to the self. And so that is the nature of everything. So by contrast, duality needs to be the manifested, the illusion, what we call Maya. That is, it's a funny word because when we translate it, and not to go on a tangent here, but just to talk about illusion a little bit, a lot of people who are getting into spirituality, metaphysics, and so on, and they hear the word illusion, they say, that's then, this gesture here, it's putting down, whatever we're talking about, right? Without going into what people say, it's this, that's just an illusion. That is not the proper meaning of the word illusion to translate Maya as a concept in Hinduism for the illusory world. What it means really, and we can go back to what actually the root of illusion is. The word illusion comes from Latin ludere, which means to play, and Maya is derived from matra, which is where we get the word for mother and matter and so on. So we're talking about the womb of reality where things are created. And as all things created, they are impermanent. That's why we mean Maya as magic also. It'll be a better word to say magic. Magic is an illusion, right? When we say a magician, he's an illusionist because he's making things appear as they're not. And this is what reality is. One day I'm here, and at some point I will not be here. So this was all an illusion, a magic being played on you. And so I'll die. And where am I? I'm still somewhere, but I'm not here in the body. So that is the word illusion. And we see that this is all an interplay of these two forces, because the two forces were split. And we can get into actually sex before I get into love. Sex, as we know it, it also describes, and this is a wrong assumption, sex is, when we talk about gender, we're not talking about the two sexes that exist biologically here, male and female biological. But you see, it's funny when we use the word sex from, again, its root, which is from secus, that is Latin. Secare means to divide, to cut up, to split. And that's where the word sex comes from, because we know that there's a union between male and female. That's what generates everything. And so we call them sex, the division of the one. That's what the word sex means. And to have sex is to have union. That's why sexual intercourse is just that, is having union of the two poles. So that's another way to see this as a union, as opposed to two individual and separated parts. They're one, it's just that in the illusion they seem separate. Love is the binding force that makes everything come together. When I said that when we say that there's a struggle between the positive and the negative, what's binding them together is love, but neither of them know it because they're polarized. And so that's the game, that we seem to be separate. But that's what binds everything. And affinity is probably a better word to show in the materialistic view of the universe, that things have an affinity for each other, or they repel each other. That we see from elemental particles to molecules to manifested beings, and then entities themselves, and then mental planes of attraction and magnetic affinity. All those things, that's what affinity means. There is a sort of connection that there exists. Hydrogen has an affinity for oxygen. They create water and so on. The protons obviously have an affinity with the electrons, the positive and the negative, the masculine and the feminine. This is all working together, and it's very intricate. It's a fractalized evolution of the 1-2 principles, or Yeah, I think I like that phrase. The one in two principles. So that is a good introduction to what gender is. Now, okay, so we can do all this, that's fine, what does this have to do with me? How do I use this? This is all well and good for practical purposes and understanding the material universe and the mental manifestations and so on. But that's exactly where I want to bring you to the mental plane, because that's where the practical side of understanding anything, in metaphysics is. So we know this too as principles in the mind. It doesn't escape. It's in all planes, right? What does it say here? Gender manifests in all planes. We have objective and subjective thinking. This is all, repetitive, but it shows the point. We have conscious and unconscious choices and thoughts and so on. Voluntary and involuntary, active and passive, all of those things speak of masculine and feminine, masculine and feminine, masculine and feminine. So what is the property of each? And that's where we're going to get into this. But the property of each is that one impresses upon the other. Just like in biological sex, one male impresses on the female. The female has the womb where it receives and it nurtures and creates, it manifests. So the same way in the mental plane, there is a direction. That's what we call the will, which we're going to get to. I'm also, just a little side note, I'm compressing the chapter of gender and mental gender, so we can have a good idea of what the practical purposes of knowing this is. So that is what we have. We have an interplay in our mind of these two forces, and that's how we create our reality. Law of attraction or manifestation, whatever they call it. It's an offshoot of this principle, of course, and you can just see how it ties in together. So, one of the fascinating parts that I found in the KYBALION, of course, for me, in Buddhism, is that they talked about something very similar, actually, from Buddhism. Not quite exact, but they talk about the I and the me. Now, for that, let's take a trip to who we are. We are co-creators. You hear that a lot. We are co-creators of this reality. We are creators. We are God. We generate things. The question is well, am I a God in preparation? Am I a baby God? Well, to a degree, and we can poetically describe that infantile nature of the divinity in us. But to explore it fully, let's take on the fact that we are creators. Okay, that's just the word, creator. Okay, as above, so below. The creator, the one creator, is making the whole universe. We are creators or co-creators. How do we do this? First, let's identify ourselves. We know that we cannot identify ourselves with the body. It's all transient. We don't even have a way to say, I am my liver, I am my heart. All these things seem to be happening to me. All these things in the body are just things that are just, you're not voluntary activating everything, so it's something that's just happening on you. You cannot identify with the body. Then with the mind, you cannot identify either, because that's impermanent. Things are fleeting, all thoughts. If I ask you to keep a thought in mind for 1 minute, you won't be able to, because thoughts are always generating and disappearing, generating and disappearing. Our association with that, and this can get very complex and it's unnecessary, but just to prove the point, is that our association with thoughts is what makes us believe we have an identity. And we get stuck, that's the word. We get stuck with this. And eventually, it'll come to the identity of, when you're so baffled in trying to identify yourself, you're going to say, well, I am. Anything starts with I am. I am a lawyer. I am a male. I am a father. I am poor. I am wealthy, whatever. The I am. And so we have the I and the me. In the KYBALION, they talk about the I. Let's talk about the me first, actually. The me is that creative identity, the creative identity that is it's impermanent. Again, it's what we associate with, me. When I say me, who are you? Well, I'm this, that. So the me takes into account physicality and mentality. That is the me. Now the I is it's kind of still. It's a sort of permanent I that always exists, and this is where it gets very close to Buddhism when we talk about the self, the one self. And the thing that they use here is that the I is impressing on the me, the I being the will or masculine, and the me being the manifest or feminine. You can see how the manifest and feminine are the me, which is fleeting, it's not here, it just comes and goes, and it's just a matter of magic. Female is magic. And now again, just put this, I know you know this by now, but I just want to reiterate it, that you are not stuck with your biological gender, just like nothing is stuck, outside of the manifestation of polarity, because you have both. Otherwise you wouldn't exist. You have to have both. That's why we say, and some men may not like this, but hey, that's the truth. We have a male and a female energy in us. This is what it means. It doesn't mean that you are biological female and male. So that is the idea. Now you see, the will is the I that impresses on the me. This is telling us that our conscious attention is telling our subconscious attention who we are. Affirmations are there, meditation, prayer, focus, all these kind of things that they give you in, what's the word, self-help books and stuff like that. That's all it's using. It's using the power of the I or the will on you, and you are accepting it, of course. Now, obviously, this, and we'll get to this masculine domination at the end, because I think it's important. But you see, it's like, well, it's always the subconscious is the part of our consciousness that is generating everything. The will is just selecting, like say anybody. This is why what we call subjective information, these hidden messages and how people are manipulated. Let me go to the masculine domination here. This is what we have in society. We have a masculine domination from the few who have taken control of the will, and we have a very feminized society that just takes impression upon everything. And so it's easy to impress those things. But you see, those in control, and this is just something that's been happening for thousands of years, of course, because these principles have been known for thousands of years. And so they are used by the ones that want to control and manipulate, which is just a natural part of our universe. You have to have controlling and manipulative people so you can understand the nature of reality. That's just how it is. So what we're seeing right now, and you can see this in all social media, in news and so on, the government, the religion, they're using the power of the I, of their I, to impress upon the me's that everybody thinks they are. And so there is an imbalance, and that is, it's always that way, because your action, you see, if you were to be told directly, do this, you are receiving it from your I, because it's not like you don't have it. So you receive it and you say, no, you don't tell me what to do, I decide what to do. So they impress you from your subconscious, so you think it's your idea, but in reality it's all the propaganda and all the little things that they have told you and how you were brought up and the fear that you have and all. It's a very intricate and fascinating, beautiful design that is done by those that would like to remain in power, because that's their game. And so, this is how it's done. It's done through the subconscious, so you can think that it's your idea to put on something, to take off something, to wear on something or not wear it, or socialize or not socialize, divide or whatever. Whatever they want you to do, they will impress it subconsciously, because that's their game. And they know this. It's a magical principle. Think about it. Who gave Adam the apple? The feminine. The subconscious was what betrayed or actually enlightened, depending on how you want to see it, Adam. It was the snake, wisdom, who gave the apple to the subconscious because it knew that that's how your mind is. I mean, the Garden of Eden is such a beautiful tale because it can be interpreted in so many ways, but you can see it here too. If the Garden of Eden was your mind, then wisdom or manipulation, whichever you want to see, it's just information, was given to the subconscious so the conscious can do it. And you see, that's how it works. So we can see it there. Now, to finish this up, I want to give you the practical point of view. You have control over your will. This is what you decide. You have been given fear for decisions. You have been given some sort of pause before you spontaneously react to something and you consider too much. You kind of consult with your subconscious, and that's fine. But if you want to take control of your life and you want to create, because that's what the creator does, it creates, and create your own reality. I mean, everybody's creating somebody else's reality, and that's just the nature of our society right now. Things are shifting. However, if you want to take control of those things that you want to create, then you have to take control of your I and question your me, because your me has been imposed by everybody else. And that's a natural process. You know, our parents do this, our teachers do this. They do it unconsciously. They just do it because they have been taught this way. But if you really want to take control and you're not afraid of what's happening, you have no fear for the unknown, then this is the principle for you. You know, the principle of understanding the male principle or the male energy in you for the female creative aspect of you. And so this is what gender means. Gender just means to generate, to create. And this is where I wanted to push you to, or bring you to. Push you sounds a little too masculine since we're talking about that. It's a beautiful way to see your life and how you take control, how you have control of your life. Now finally, this again will be pretty easy. I'm gonna make one more video soon, and I'll bring back the wave for one last time to describe it fully. But for now, we have the generation of this whole thing is, once again, I mean, I painted this with, just so you see that it's so easy to understand things in as a reference with the, I'm going to use positive and negative actually. It's the same thing, masculine and feminine. So we have a masculine and feminine interplay that creates, you see, this whole thing is created thanks to the two sides, the negative and the positive, the masculine and the female. You know, your conscious mind, which is aware of, or consciously aware, you know, the spotlight, as Alan Watts used to call it, the spotlight, and we have the floodlight here, the feminine. This is impressing. It's getting impression from here, and this is manifesting to the outside. So it's a constant interplay that we do. The moment you take control of that, you understand a lot more. And this is why will is so important. It's the first principle, free will, in the law of one, because is the creative principle, is what decides what to do. It's decision. Free will is decision. This is why infringing upon free will is influencing your decision, or not influencing, but manipulating your decision, pushing you to one decision. So again, it's easy to understand the KYBALION, all the laws, because we're talking about one creation that has just a very basic principle of manifestation. So that's all I got. I have at least one more video on the KYBALION. We'll see if there's anything else. But that would be the Hermetic axioms, and I'll bring back the wave to finish it up. I hope this made sense. I think, once again, if I can give you just one last reiteration, would be the will. Know that your will, what you want to do, is what's actually impressing. Of course, you know, to train the subconscious, you have to have a pretty good grasp on your will. But that happens over time. You know, with practice and understanding it more and getting used to it. It's like using a tool. You know, it becomes part of you. So while over time your will might have been part of somebody else's will and you had been acting upon that. You're taking control now. It's going to feel weird. It's like when you're trying to use a tool for the first time, it seems weird, but you have to keep going. And that's how you manifest your reality, at least in principle. So speaking of principles, this is the last one. Like I said, axioms, which I think it's phenomenal, some of the things they say there. And I want to overlap it with the law of one as well. And a couple of things. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching again. Hope this was enlightening in some point, or at least just reinforced or validated the things that you know already. So that's it. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next video.